Hi, my name is Carolyn Salvador, and I'm the CEO of Enduring Hearts. Thanks for coming by our booth. Enduring Hearts is a national charity that launched in 2013 by a heart transplant family just like you. At that point in time, a heart transplant was lasting only 11 years. And while their daughter Maya was waiting for her precious gift of life, they discovered that a transplant was not a cure, and there wasn't another organization dedicated to solving this problem. So pretty much at bedside, they created Enduring Hearts with the mission to fund global research to increase transplant longevity and improve the quality of life for children living with a heart transplant. We drive science based upon the most pressing problems, and we look at science that will impact the lives of children within the next 5 years. This chart represents a few of our biggest problems that we face today. We know that there simply aren't enough donor hearts, and that children die while waiting, and that sadly, a lot of the hearts that are donated don't get to the children. So the research that we fund is fixing that problem. We also are aware that there are harsh immune suppressant drugs that children must take in order to keep their own heart from rejecting them. We can't measure a body's immune suppression, and those drugs are really hard on developing bodies, and they can let in other diseases and disorders if we don't have that immune suppression right. We fund a lot of science in immunology. Organ rejection, that's our biggest foe. Currently, a heart biopsy is the gold standard, and it's far from perfect. We need better methods to detect organ rejection so that we can detect it early and then change a treatment path. So we're funding a lot of studies at non-invasive methods of detecting organ rejection, and I'll share with you a little bit later about a few promising ones. When children age and they get to those teenage years, we know that 50 to 60% of them have failed to take their medicine at some point in time. So medical adherence and understanding how to support teenagers into adulthood is really important and a way to improve transplant outcomes. And the last thing I want to mention on this slide is that there aren't enough pediatric heart transplants being done across the world, so that we want to make sure that we can get centers to come together to form consensus and learn from each other. We have a wonderful team of scientific advisory committee members. They are from the best and the brightest research institutions across North America. We poll them, and along with the broader scientific community, to develop each year our targeted research priorities. These are our funding priorities for 2022: improving longevity and quality of life, and eliminating and reducing rejection, including CAV, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Developing evidence-based strategies to improve longevity of our adolescents, and then strengthening pre-transplant strategies and innovations and new technologies for children waiting or after they receive a heart transplant. So what does that look like? You can see in the little buckets the research that we do pre-transplant, and the hearts on the chart show you where the heart transplant occurs, and post-transplant. Our research really is across a broad spectrum, but it's also targeted within those 3 buckets. Since we started in 2013, we have funded over 50 studies across North America, and now globally. We funded our first in Europe last year, bringing over $10 million of new research to pediatric heart transplantation. We're very excited about this. In 2022, just to share a little bit about, so you kind of understand about our organization, we'll fund about $2.5 million of new research. We have 16 research projects ongoing, and then of that $2.5 million, that looks like about 9 of our regular direct grants and 2 really large-scale grants that we partner with American Heart Association to fund. We collaborate with other organizations because it's so important to be able to bring others alongside of us. And we engage families in the research process. You may not know that, but we invite families to participate in grant reviews and funding partnerships and family surveys and getting on our board. Partnership is really key for us expanding our funding in this really underfunded segment. So how do we work? And where is the research conducted? Enduring Hearts doesn't have a lab. Well, we raise money from the public through donations, events, partnerships to fund our research, and then we give it right back out. We fund the top institutions and researchers all over the world. They apply for research grants through us, through our grant proposal process. And as I mentioned earlier, we have that brilliant team of scientific advisory committee members from hospitals and universities, probably some from your hospital, and they review and score each grant for merit and impact. And then we get to award the money right back out into the research community. And we work with the pediatric transplant community to ensure that we are guiding our research to have the most promising research to impact the lives of children who are here today. So I want to talk about one of our research funded areas, and that's CAV. We focus a lot of our research on CAV, and I'll share with you a little bit why that's so important. To date, we funded 16 studies in CAV. Here's why. Right now, CAV, cardiac allograft vasculopathy, is so important because it can account for, it's a leading cause of transplant loss and acute rejection after the first year. Researchers are just starting to understand why it occurs. We don't exactly know where it occurs. We're finding out. We don't know how to detect it early, and we don't know how to treat it. So we're looking at the why, the where, the how, and the what. So let's talk about how Enduring Hearts is tackling CAV. And I'm going to share with you just a few of our research studies that will kind of guide you through some of the discoveries that we're very excited about, and to give you an idea of the type of research that we fund. One of our earlier studies by Dr. Brian Feingold of Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh, his work actually had a pretty important discovery that identified the where of CAV starts to occur. And he's identified that CAV actually starts to affect the really small blood vessels of the heart, or what's called the microvessels, in children with failing hearts. So from this set of observations, we can now start to look for changes early on and identify those changes in biopsy samples or other methods of detection. So Dr. Feingold's study on microvessels are really important as a piece of the CAV puzzle. We know also that because we don't know exactly how to detect it early, we have to look for other ways to detect it. And so Dr. Shelley Miyamoto out of Children's Colorado, we funded a study called Circulating MicroRNAs, and to use a blood biomarker to be able to look and identify if CAV was occurring. And Dr. Miyamoto's work looked at this blood biomarker to see if there was early changes in the coronary arteries. And based upon that, could we also look for early treatment? Because we know that if we can find it early, we can treat it early. Right now, CAV is not detected during a normal biopsy. And when we can actually usually identify it, it's really progressed almost too late. Great news on Dr. Miyamoto's is that she is now, based upon her initial findings, indicated that this microRNA, this specific biomarker, may indicate CAV is occurring up to 18 months in advance of being able to see it in a biopsy. This could create a pathway for new treatments and for diagnostic tools. So we are incredibly excited about Dr. Miyamoto's work. The next thing that's important for us about CAV is that we really need to understand why it's occurring. And to be able to do that, we funded a study out of Children's Texas, Dr. Kaswani, and he's actually creating a model out of stem cells to be able to emulate the coronary arteries so that they can actually contract and mimic the movements of a coronary artery. This will allow scientists to study it and then to actually watch the disease progression so that they can develop therapies and treatments. The last one I want to talk about is something that's really important. We talk about having treatments. This was a study from Dr. Kieran Cush out of Stanford, and this is trying to understand and develop an actual treatment using leukotriene B4, and this is an inflammatory molecule that actually provides a signal in the development of CAV. So what she has discovered that if this L2B4 production is evident, she can use a drug. It's called B-statin that's actually being used for something else, and she can target this specific molecule, and it will actually prevent CAV. And so she's had preliminary evidence that this could actually be a treatment for CAV. And so it's taking a drug that's already been FDA approved for something else, and it's called repurposing. And so we funded a few studies already that are looking at repurposing drugs, and it's a quicker pathway to drug development. So this is also exciting, and Dr. Cush's work is advancing. So these are just 4 examples where we've looked at kind of the where it occurs, the why it occurs, how we can detect it, and how we can treat it. So just to kind of give you a little example of the work that Enduring Hearts is doing in one of our very important targeted areas. In addition to our research, Enduring Hearts has a variety of programs to help transplant families, and I hope you're aware of those. This is just a list of those, but you can go to our website under Enduring Hearts /families and check them out. We've got our gas cards, our Feed the Heart, our huggable pillows, which will help you celebrate your child's heart transplant. We have Facebook Lives and lots of ways for families to get involved with us. We'd love for you to be part of our family. This is one of our board members and his beautiful son Towns and wife, and this just gives you some information about becoming involved. Our board is comprised of families and business people that care and want to help children. So you get to have a voice, you get to guide our programs and help with research. Really important, and our goal for 2022 is to expand family involvement, which is why transplant families are so important and why we're here today. So thank you so much for stopping by our booth. Please check us out on our website, and to get involved you can email Diane@enduringhearts.org. And don't forget to sign up for our welcome kit. We'd love to welcome you to our family.